G'day, ZiggyD here, and in this video I want to talk about the life changes that have been made to Path of Exile and give you guys some suggestions of new benchmarks to follow for creating life-based characters. I'll also give some brief mentions to Energy Shield or CI characters and hybrid characters as well, because those are indirectly affected by these changes and, well, directly affected by some other changes. So, the first thing is that there is a lot less life on the tree. This is evident straight away when you start looking at the new tree. A lot of the nodes have simply been reduced in the amount of life that they give by a great deal, so you'll see a lot more like 6% life nodes around the tree, a lot more 5%, even like as low as 3% life nodes around the tree as well. So on first inspection, this looks a bit like a massive life nerf, like ZiggyD is trying to push us back into Path of CI action pre-Nemesis, but it's actually not really that much of a change to life-based characters at all. We have to kind of learn a whole bunch of new benchmarks and things like that, but the actual effectiveness of life seems to be approximately the same. Now, the reason for this is that the life per level given has been changed from 8 per level to 12 per level now, so that's a 50% increase in the amount of life you gain each level. So this is pretty significant. The idea is that there's less life scaling on the tree, but your character has higher base life. So the idea is that you get less life from the tree, but still end up with the same amount of total. So I did take the liberty of putting together a bit of an Excel spreadsheet here, a little bit of Path of Exile action, and with some post 1.2 numbers on the left here and some pre 1.2 numbers here. And you can see this calculation if you want to do your own calculations up the top here. This is what you use to calculate your total life post expansion. You can change this 12 to an 8 for pre-expansion essentially. Now, what happens here is, I've based this on a character at level 75 with 80 strength, which is a very low strength because the amount of strength impacts this as well. You get more life if you have higher amounts of strength, and that kind of values, higher strength builds value more life scaling more than lower strength builds. And then we have some life totals over this side just here, so you can see, you know, 3 to 3.6, 3.9, 3.6 to 3, and almost 3.9, so about the same life totals there. But what you'll notice is the amount of life scaling difference here between post 1.2 and pre 1.2. Now, to make a hardcore character in pre 1.2 or in the current game, generally people will say about 200% life is considered minimum, and most characters, most tankier life-based characters, will stack up to 230% life, and some go even further than that, though something like 200 to 230% is considered to be pretty tanky for hardcore. Now, you can see that the almost the same amount of life here, and this is based on characters with 70 life per piece of gear at level 75, so this is a very average endgame character. 70 life per gear is not hard to obtain. You can get significantly more than that on armor pieces, and that's kind of just like just a rough average I wanted to work out for this. Now, essentially, you can see the same amount of life pools here for a character with 230% life, so a tanky hardcore character with now 170% life. And I have planned out a few characters, I've planned out a few ranges so far that managed to tag the 170% life without, you know, feeling like I'm just going Path of Life nodes action, like dipping into the Scion life tree and going for some of those nice life clusters and planning your build in that regard a bit. Still quite possible to get 170% life. A bit difficult to push beyond that without sacrificing a lot of damage, I found, though, which is pretty much exactly the same as it is in the current state of the game, with getting beyond 230% life in a normal build at the moment requires a fair bit of sacrifice. So it's virtually the same thing. But the new benchmark for a hardcore character is approximately 140 to 150% life. I would probably aim towards 150% life myself, but depending on your build and depending on your other forms of mitigation, you may be willing to go a bit lower. But this is a pretty straight, easy conversion. Basically, 60% life, less life scaling than what you had before is now about the same. Now, there are some other considerations to keep in mind with this. The lowering of life scaling and the less life scaling we get in our characters, it devalues life on gear a little bit, and it devalues the life reward from the Oak Bandit quest as well. Now, I still think you need to stack life on gear. There's no way around that. Sure, it devalues a little bit, but you're not going to be getting gear without life as a result. Maybe you can start to value armor and other forms of mitigation a little bit more, but I still think you need that life. And the same goes for Oak. I saw some really nice math done on Reddit. I'll try and link you guys to a comment, which sort of looked at a character taking and not taking the Oak, so essentially either taking the 40 base life or taking some life scaling from the passive tree. but Oak still wins out. So I don't think anything's really going to change there. Sure, the valuation changes a bit, but you're still going to be getting the Oak reward, and you're still going to be getting the life on gear that you're always getting. So not really that much has actually changed. It's pretty simple to continue to build a life character, essentially. Now, in terms of planning out a life-based character on the tree, there have been a few changes. There are a lot more hybrid life nodes that you can sort of play around with, but a lot of that sort of like structuring and spread across the tree is virtually the same. The really significant one that I want to point out is that the Scion life wheel is now much more valuable. It was really strong once upon a time in Path of Exile, and pretty much all life-based characters would go into the Scion area to get this life cluster, a massive life cluster. It was very efficient, had very good, it had like all 8% nodes or something like that. But it was pretty substantially nerfed to the point where most people wouldn't get it at all, or they would just travel through this shortcut area there. In the new tree, the Scion life cluster is back to being quite valuable. We have the 5% life nodes all the way around here, and because of the sheer amount of it in one spot in a tree with relatively low amounts of life scaling, this becomes more valuable inherently. And then we have this node, this 20 plus max life, 14% increased max life node, is one of the best life nodes in the game now as well. So this tree has gone back to being very valuable. You'll notice that there's no life on Path of the Warrior anymore, that there is that 20 strength for the 10 extra base life. But what this means is if you are trying to build one of those characters that gets that 170% life, you know, that really tanky hardcore character, you're going to be going for this this Scion life cluster just here. And just to sort of illustrate this, these are all 5% cluster nodes, and there's quite a lot of them here. Looking at other nodes around the tree, we've got like, you know, 4%, 6%, we've got a bunch of 3% and a 6% there, we've got 4% there. So you're looking at a lot of 4-ish sort of percent ones. Some of the nicer nodes over by Marauder and Templar are a little bit higher, so 6, 6, and 8 there. We've got, you know, 6, 6, and 8 there as well. And in the Marauder start area, we've got like, you know, a bunch of 4% and things like that, as well as some 6% in there. So there are better nodes than the 5% nodes, but the sheer amount of them and the fact that they're about average or slightly better than average in general makes this a very attractive choice. So that's kind of changing the routing and the shape of the tree for life-based builds quite a bit, I think. Now, I want to give a bit of a mention to CI or ES-based characters. Firstly, let's talk about hybrid characters. This is something that I find kind of interesting. There's been substantial buffs to the possibility of making hybrid life ES characters. Now, hybrid life ES characters have some significant issues they must deal with, the most significant of which is how do you not get absolutely destroyed by chaos damage when you have like 2,000 or 2,500 life and 4,000 ES. Sure, you have a huge total life pool of, you know, over 6,000 or whatever with that sort of combined approach, and you can get a lot of effective HP, but when you have something that only affects your ES, you know, without using something like Solaris Lorica, you're getting absolutely destroyed by chaos. So hybrid life ES characters still have some issues, but I'm really hoping that the changes made in this tree start to see some people using hybrid and start to see it become relevant. Just some like small examples here. We've got a lot of hybrid life ES nodes on the actual tree now, sort of promoting that idea. You can see the hybrid life ES nodes there and the hybrid life ES nodes just here, and these are situated between Shadow and Witch, which makes a lot of sense thematically. So I do hope we see some hybrid characters, but I'm not probably going to be one of the people who jumps into doing that first, but I encourage some of you guys to maybe fiddle around with it. I'll probably be going either straight life or CI, because I think in most cases you're better off when you have, you know, a high amount of ES and a lowish amount of life, just dropping the life and specking more ES and just sort of min-maxing out that. But I do sincerely hope we see some more hybrid characters. Now, I kind of mentioned before that Path of Exile, you know, wouldn't become Path of CI just because of the life nerfs. However, that might still happen anyway because ES and CI have been buffed pretty substantially in this patch. I just for pure illustration effect here, I've planned out a 60-point build, so that's essentially a build that gets most of its defenses done in 60 points, and then you can tack on whatever other things you want to that to finish a build. But anyway, in those 60 points I was able to get, we have here 300% maximum energy, and then there is the 15% more max energy from Infused Shield from taking CI as well. Now, completely honest, I haven't played a CI character since like closed beta, and even then I didn't really seriously play it. So I've never really had much experience with CI or ES based characters. However, it does look like it's a lot stronger, and a lot of the people I've talked to so far who have played CI characters recently say that this is a pretty substantial buff. It's now much more accessible to get a lot more ES on the tree. So although life is about the same relative strength, I think we are seeing an increasing CI, and I do think CI is going to be very popular, or ES based builds in general are going to become very popular as well. So definitely consider looking into that. And I'm sort of to the point now when I'm planning, you know, different shadow builds, for example, I'm now planning them as life and CI, and a lot of the time I'm like, well, this actually looks a bit better as CI than it does as life. Looks, you know, looks viable, looks strong as life, but looks really, really strong as CI. So I think definitely start to consider the fact that now CI is going to become a thing, and that might be something I play with in the future as well, and give you guys some more info on. If you guys have any thoughts on the CI changes in particular, or the ES changes in particular, or any math you want to share based on your characters and stuff like that, as I said, I've got no gear or anything to base this on, but if you have any ideas on that, please do share it in the comments below. I'm interested to see what you've got. Anyway, hopefully you guys found this little demonstration interesting. Life is still quite strong, and it's, although things have shifted around a little bit, it's still pretty much a straight conversion. You know, 60% less life scaling, and you're pretty much done. That's like if you want to go to complete TLDR, TL didn't listen, too long didn't listen. It is 60% less life, and you're good to go. So anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.